In a swift action, India moved its warship INS Chennai towards the hijacked vessel off the Somalia coast. And in an operation led by Indian Marine Commandos, all 21 on board MV Lila Norfolk were rescued today, including 15 Indians. In just the last fortnight, India has faced 3 huge challenges in the Arabian Sea. 2 weeks ago, a Gabon-flagged commercial oil tanker on its way to India with 25 crew members, all of them Indian nationals, came under a drone attack in the southern Red Sea, though no casualty was reported. Amid heightened attacks by Houthis in the Red Sea, the ship was escorted later by Indian Coast Guard ship Vikram. And just a day before that, there was a drone attack on commercial ship MV Pluto in the Arabian Sea. Ship was carrying 21 Indian crew members. If you look at what's happening, say since mid-December, Iran-linked proxies have made over 160 attempts by missiles and drones on shipping passing through the Red Sea and Arabian Sea. This largely portrays the big challenges that lie before India and its maritime security, even as India takes lead as the voice of the global south and it steers its maritime and strategic might across partners. An assertive Indian Navy has already said that it has increased maritime security and surveillance in Central and North Arabian Sea by deploying frontline destroyers, frigates, as well as long-range maritime patrol aircraft.
साथियों, भारत पूरे इंडियन ओशन रीजन में नेट सिक्योरिटी प्रोवाइडर की भूमिका में है। हम सुनिश्चित करेंगे कि इस इलाके में होने वाले समुद्री व्यापार सागर से उठकर आसमान की बुलंदियों तक पहुंचे।
I'm being joined right now by Captain Shyam Kumar, who is the former warship captain and pilot instructor, Captain Sanjay Prashar, an ex-chairman of the International Maritime Fed and ex-member of the National Shipping Board, and Maruf Raza, the consulting editor for the Times Network. Thank you very much, all three of you, for joining us. Means a lot. In fact, we just hope over the next 15 minutes, we'll be able to understand the massive dimensions of what we are trying to discuss here. The consulting editor for the Times Network. Thank you very much, all three of you, for joining us. Means a lot. In fact, we just hope over the next 15 minutes, we'll be able to understand the massive dimensions of what we are trying to discuss here. It's not just about what's happening in the Red Sea or just not what's happening off Somalia. It's so much more larger than this. But first to you, Captain Shyam Kumar, with what has happened today, how do you look at the larger picture, the way India moved extremely fast, moved its warship, Marine Commandos taking charge?
Vigilance on Indian Oceanic region. Our frontline destroyers, our long-range maritime patrol aircrafts such as P-8I and Dornier are keeping a clear vigil on the Indian Ocean. And we have a clear maritime domain awareness which is being picked up throughout into the Arabian Sea, Indian Ocean and the Bay of Bengal. Accordingly, 4 ships have been deployed for the anti-piracy missions and as a deterrence to repress piracy and carry out swift actions. We have learned these actions during Operation Cactus in Maldives, during Operation Pawan, and from 2008 onwards, 107 ships have been deployed in anti-piracy operations of Somalia under the unilateral or collective missions such as missions which are going on now. So when this ship has been hijacked with 15 members of Indian nationals on board, it is also our international responsibility to carry out swift actions with aircraft, ships, and deter, repress, or carry out some kind of help to them so that the pirates do not damage the ship or the crew members, and we carry out some negotiations to get them safe out of the hands of pirates. Over to you, Sneha.
In fact, Captain Shyam, help me just understand it. A very quick question before I go to other panelists as well to get their introductory remarks. Do you see a change in the swiftness of how India has responded in this particular case, or has this been how it has been?
If you really ask me, I'm a warship captain and I'm a helicopter pilot, have been Marine Commando experience operations on the Widget board, search and siege a merchant ship in case they are into a illegal or anti-poaching activities or carrying out arms, ammunitions against the international law. So all ships are capable of this. Indian naval ships are really capable of this. This frontline destroyer is carrying a helicopter, it is carrying Marcos on board, and by firing guns, keeping a safe distance if required. But firstly, we don't do such actions because the safety of the crew is very, very important. That's why we have to be very careful and sensitive in a calibrated response when we close the ships. So it is, Indian Navy is professional about it. We have the experience and the INS Chennai is doing its job.
Right. Captain Sanjay Prashar, you have been particularly involved with sailors in distress, in getting them relief, in getting them rescued, and working with the government. Before I even get you on board in responding to what we are seeing across the Red Sea as well, can you just give us about how you're looking at what is happening and unfolding off the Somalia coast as we speak?
Actually, Somalia coast was something which we never thought of. What has really transpired is that you get only 30 minutes as command on board and the crew on board to watch out on the radar and the surroundings with the binoculars depending upon the visibility. Its maximum what you can see is between 6 nautical miles to 12 nautical miles, and the skiffs, small ones, with the armed people, they just take 10 to 15 minutes to just get on board. So I think the time for the crew to react was pretty less, but I think still at the end of the day for them to report, I am not very sure whether AIS was switched on or switched off, but Indian naval ship getting there means, 300,000 Indian seafarers are serving at any given time on nearly 70,000 merchant ships. So I think the message has gone across to all these seafarers and their families that yes, the government of India stands by them, never mind the merchant vessel flag maybe Liberia or some other country. But this is something which is new, this is something which is unheard of. I think this gives a lot of confidence. Although 50% of the traffic has actually moved away from the Suez Canal, and governments are trying to bring in some more naval ships. Probably I think maybe couple of more naval ships will be required from Bab el Mandab to the Somalia region, which probably is a transit of 12 hours, and maybe what we did in 2010, 11, 12, maybe that is the same thing which needs to be repeated. But probably with Houthi rebels and with Somalian pirates, something is working in tandem, which is probably for the intelligence department of the governments or the navies to probably unravel.
Right. In fact, Maruf Raza, from what is being analyzed, particularly with what's happening at the Red Sea as well, and the way India is now emerging, or for a long time has been talking about maritime security. Defense Minister gave a extremely clear, strong messaging just last month, particularly with what was unfolding in the Red Sea. How do you see India position itself? Because maritime security may not really be one of its strongest forte when you compare it to possibly the others.
The Indian Navy is suitably equipped to deal with the challenges of this nature. One of the roles of the Navy, apart from guarding India's coastline and potential attacks from our adversaries like Pakistan, is to ensure that the economic activity in India's strategic zone of influence in the Indian waters is suitably supported and protected by the Navy. Secondly, there has been mention of the Marcos. Yes, the Marcos, I'm familiar with them. They're a very, very highly trained force. Just to give you a small example, they can parachute into the high seas single-handedly and go ahead and get to the enemy's throat. So don't doubt the ability of the Navy to deliver if they are given clear orders to do so. It all depends on the political dispensation and how they decide to react to a situation. Third, the Somali pirates have for long made an industry out of hijacking liners, ships, oil vessels, and everything else they can lay their hands on. Most of the pirates are basically untrained, highly crude sort of tribals from the Somali coastline, and they want to make the most of a few occasions that they have to hijack and make money out of this. Ransoms are paid, and it is not that every country is willing to deploy its navy. And the last and important point is that such situations have given countries like China the opportunity to become much more aggressive with their footprint in the Indian Ocean under the protection, under the pretext of piracy policies. So we have to now accept this not as a minor aberration, but as a permanent threat and create a force which will be anti-piracy. You don't pull out a few ships from the naval commands and say, go and sort the problem out and go get back to regular maritime activity, which means parades and ceremonials, etc. But you get on, you have to be on a war footing.
Mr. Maroof? Right. Mr. Maroof, let me just get in Captain Sanjay Prashar at this point. Captain, you know what Mr. Maroof is saying is making sense also, but if you look at the larger picture, this piracy, particularly with the pirates in the sea off the Somalia coast, is not new. There have been several such attacks in the past as well. Is India responding late in a way of building a special response force for such things?
If you really look at the Somalian pirates activity, it has actually come out with the hijacking of the one ship earlier from Bulgaria, and this is the second one. Actually, what has happened is earlier we used to have these security guards on board with arms and ammunitions. The ship is just having probably 20 people or 22 people or maximum 24 on these bulk carriers. Cape size are fully laden and have got less freeboard. So I think at the end of the day, all the alerts and DG shipping notices already there on 29th of December, which is telling us what practices to follow as seafarers. But please understand one very simple thing, these pirates, they plan it so well and they are well trained for these kind of activities. But this is not an attack which is happening regularly. But given that, the second ship has happened within probably, 2 weeks, I am very sure that, convoy system or probably, putting a particular kind of a route and for the masters to communicate effectively with the navies as well as, with the UK MTO, probably, I think things will go much more serious in the coming days. I think it's not about just ship being hijacked. I think it is about the owners and the operators and the charterers deciding whether they would like to send any more ships here, although the bulk carriers are only 15% down. But look at what Maersk has done. They have actually stopped using this particular passage. Now they are using the Cape of Good Hope and they are actually having 10 to 12 days of extra time what they are going to spend, and $1 million, which I said earlier, on per voyage. So I feel having private maritime security contractors may be one part of the solution, or probably putting extra naval vessels, or probably regrouping the strategies which are required, because Somalian pirates and coming out of Bab el-Mandab, which is only 18 nautical miles, kind of a spread of sea area between Africa and between the Arabian land. So I think when seafarers are going to have long hours of duty and there are only 22 people and you have to keep reporting and all that, I think it's very tough time for seafarers as well as for others. But Government of India responding to it, probably they have done a good job as on date what we are seeing. But I think there is more which is going to be coming in the next few weeks.
Right. In fact, if I can just go back to Captain Sanjay, Captain Shyam Kumar, Captain, with attacks only likely to increase, like we were mentioning, in last 1 month, there seems to be at least over 160 attempts by Houthis and several other proxy players to attack vessels. The mandate perhaps now is also shifting towards India to ensure that global trade could really continue the way it needs to in some very trying times?
I must bring you to the notice of all the viewers that Indian Navy has been onto this operation from last almost 20 years. If I'm lucky to just show you a photograph, a ship behind me here, INS Sharda. This was deployed in Malacca Strait when I was in command of the ship, and just prior to that, it had come and had taken over this ship. So this kind of offshore patrol vessels have been plying into the strategic waters of Malacca Strait as well as Gulf of Aden. And we have been keeping a clear vigil for last 20 years. 107 ships have been so far deployed into the Somalian coast against the anti-piracy operations. So therefore, it is not a new role for the Indian Navy to carry out this operation. In fact,
it's
from
definitely
2008
not new.
to 13,
but would that be enough, Captain Shyam Kumar? Would that be enough?
See, ocean is very vast, ma'am. It is very vast. It is difficult to sanitize each and every area. Therefore, there are some sea lanes of communications. There are some corridors through which these ships ply. We have to sanitize them by a clear air patrol. We have Operation Atlanta from the UNAV-4, United Union Naval Force. We have the Operation Prosperity Guardian going on. We have other navies working. 20 and many ships are in harbor close by to carry out operations. So deterrence is required. The piracy had stopped. Now this in the shadow of Hamas and the attacking by drones, this has germinated again. I'm sure it will die down with the deterrence and a proper coordinated patrol, sanitizing the waters, keeping a barricade, anti-air defense for the drones, etc., and carrying out the same measures which was done in the past. It will surely die down.
Right. Maruf Raza,
Koshy, let me just step in if you don't mind.
What's really happening? Yes, Captain Prashar.
Yeah, I just want to say that, for the first time we are seeing sea drones. For the first time we are seeing, well-trained guys going on helicopters and, taking the video shots and getting down on the ships and hijacking the ships. For the first time we are saying that we have got a serious problem where the war is being fought in some other terrains and the impact is being seen nearly 1,000 miles away. And let me tell you, on a ship, seafarers, it is just like being in a house. In a layman's language, somebody comes with all arms and ammunition, barges into your house. You have got nothing to do except hide for yourself and look for police or somebody outside, the house who will reach on time and will help you. But as I personally feel for seafarers and for the safety of the ship and for the kind of a cargo movement, these are abnormal times and they don't need the things of just the past. They need something out of the box thinking. And I personally feel the kind of security which is required at maritime fronts on this particular region, which has been boiling on and off, probably it is time for us to have a big naval warship kind of a base, because this will have a global impact. Thank you.
Right. Maruf Raza, with what is happening across Indian waters, not just Indian waters, if you look globally what is happening, the import of these geostrategic developments that are happening, especially around the Indian waters as well. Do you see how India's challenges has possibly only grown quite sharply just over a brief period of time?
You see, as has been brought out by Captain Prashar, that these are changing times. And with changing times, you have to adapt yourself to them. You have to take on new strategies, new tactics. Let me give you an analogy. You see, for long, the Indian Army only prepared to defend India's borders. Then came Pakistan and the Kashmir insurgency. So the Army now has a large number of people deployed in battling insurgencies in jungles. And we still have a lot of soldiers who turn around and say, they're in a state of denial. They say that, oh, this is not our primary role. Your primary role, damn it, is to guard the nation's interests. And if you can't do that, you might as well go home. So as far as the Navy is concerned, the Navy can fly all the flags it wants to, but it has to take on this role more aggressively. Secondly, we must understand India's strategic area of influence is from the coast of Africa to the Straits of Malacca. And in that area, anybody sticking their nose out from under the water or otherwise should be prepared to confront the Indian Navy. And the Indian Navy has the capability, the will and the capacity. The political leadership has to give the signal, because India's armed forces don't take on conflict situations on their own initiative. The third thing is that there is a port that facilities have been given to us by Oman in Dakham. And that port can be built up more by India to give the Navy a base where it can react very quickly to such situations instead of sailing somebody from the coast of India right all the way to the coast of Africa. It takes many days time unless you're flying everything over. And if you fly them, where are you going to land them? So there are issues that the Navy has to go back to the drawing board, and the Navy has to tell the Raksha Mantralaya that, listen, this is our role. Even if you take time to get us the right equipment, give us the go-ahead. And as General Malik rightly said during the Kargil conflict, we don't have enough, but we will fight with what we have.
Okay. Just a last one minute with each. We are totally out of time. But Captain Sanjay Prashar, I had to ask this. There was a time when countries and their identity, their loyalties would be first to citizens in distress. So if you have Indians on board, if you have your allies on board, immediate allies, you know, the countries would swing into action. But with the changing dynamics across the world, are we also reaching a point where India's strength also lies in the fact about how it is not only emerging as a strong leader in the global south, but is actually steering several capabilities and strategic partnerships? And that's why its role really during these tough times, particularly with what's happening, whether it be in the Indian Ocean, towards the Red Sea, Arabian Sea, all of these things just kind of multiplies.
I think the government of India is probably already prepared. That's why we have seen a swift response from the Honorable Raksha Mantri. And I personally feel that in the coming days, the days of being local navy and the local fights are over, as Raza Saab has rightly said, you know. So it is going to be global. The strategies are going to be global. And I think the kind of, navy exercise what were being done, I think that is going to be more, but it will be focused on piracy. It will be focused on kind of an attack by Houthi rebels. Surprising thing for me in this particular whole agenda and the chapter is, for the first time I'm seeing Houthi rebels know the banks who are actually having the accounts of Israelis and the assets belong to Israelis. It is so difficult to find out a ship which belongs to an Israeli interest or not. But right now, the way the attacks are happening, I agree with what the United Nations, the officers are saying. But what they are saying is that they are just attacking for the attention, and which doesn't sound good. But yes, it will be global henceforth for India, not local anymore. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. One thing remains for sure, India has said it is committed to ensure trade and people will remain safe around Indian waters. Thank you very much for joining us.